Self-care. Welcome everyone. It's great to see these wonderful faces, familiar faces for the most part. It's great. So I want you to keep in mind that it's normal to be concerned right now. So we're facing something we've never experienced before, and feeling fear which might come up for some of you, is understandable. Think of it as fear is a place that can give us energy to take action. So there's two forms of action I want you to focus on. One is your safety, the things that you've been recommended or told to do during these challenging times. But yet keep in mind that the idea of fear of the unknown just creates anxiety. So what we want to do is get ourselves as much as possible into the current moment and into an internal space. And then the second way that we can use the energy of fear is to create a self-care plan, like we're going to talk about tonight. So the idea is to use the energy of fear to guide you to take healthy actions, including taking care of yourself. Think of it as motivation to take healthy action. And since most of us actually feel better if we take some form of action, this way we're directing the energy into something constructive. So the second part tonight, that we'll do tonight, is in the handout that you were emailed, has to do with us jotting down some notes and creating a self-care plan. So a self-care plan might look a little bit different right now, but I tailored this tonight to talk about the situation that we're in the world and in our lives. So the self-care plan, think of it as a plan that's going to be modified as time goes on. So what does self-care mean? Think of it as taking care of you on all levels. It helps to manage stress, and it keeps you healthy in general. It's especially important during this time to strengthen your immune system on the physical body and to raise your vibration on the energetic body, both of those. So tonight we're going to talk about physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual self-care, so that we are taking some form of action in all the different areas of our life to increase the immune system through the physical body as well as the energetic. So have that plan, that piece of paper handy so you can jot down some notes. And you'll be invited to offer some ideas and suggestions as we cover each of the separate areas: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual self-care. So we'll talk about each one a little bit separately. Before we begin that conversation, I'd like to just invite everyone to do a little bit of guided meditation, a little bit of grounding. This is not only a form of self-care, it's a really great way to start anything that you do. So if you will just take a moment and drop your awareness down into your body and take a few breaths. Really get in touch with your physical body. And some people do grounding meditations with energetic roots. You can visualize that if you'd like. The most important part is connecting to the density of your physical body. So think of this as being aware of your body and the energetic flow. Letting go of whatever happened before we started this webinar. Letting go of whatever happened throughout your day, and giving yourself permission to be fully present to our evening gathering together in this sacred space. Take 3 more breaths, allowing that to occur. Fully present in your body. And as you return to the awareness of our group, I want to remind you that this helps you be present and hear what's beneficial for you. So that tonight you might hear some things that you're already doing. You might be inspired by some things others share, or you might come up with an idea you never thought of before. That's my hope. So Laura, let's begin.
Okay, I'm going to get the PowerPoint loaded here so everybody can see it. Okay, do you guys see the PowerPoint on your screen?
No, you have to push the screen share, I think.
Share screen, the green one right under Ginny's necklace.
Yeah, let's do that again. Sorry, guys.
I have it on mine if that's easier.
I'm almost there. Sorry about that. Let's try this. How about now?
No.
No. Well, okay.
Can I do it? Is that okay with you if I do it? Oh, wait.
Wait, here we go.
Okay. Did I do that or did you?
Let's see here. Do we have it now?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Okay, so let's see here. Can you see it, Jenny?
I do not.
Oh.
Let's see, are you on gallery view?
That's what I'm looking for.
Are others able to see it?
Yes.
Okay, I don't need to see it. I know what's on there.
Okay. Well, I've got it showing why is self-care important.
Okay, we just talked about that, so let's go to the next slide. This is odd.
Okay, so the next slide is the physical self-care.
Okay, so let's talk about the physical body. So we want to recognize the signs, each of us wants to recognize the signs of your own personal stress response. For some, it's going to be elevated heart rate or a clenched jaw or your fists or sleepless nights. Acknowledging the stress can help you feel better and help you determine the right action that you want to take or that you need to take at that time. So keeping a routine, is really challenging right now because we're at home. So just because we're at home, I want to encourage you to, on your work days or designated days, not every day it doesn't need to be, but during certain days, get up, take a shower, get dressed, plan your day, do what you can, reach to have some structure. Because our body system, we're rope beings. We need that and like to have that. So I'm just encouraging you to do that and notice that you'll feel different when you do, so that it's not just sweatpants on a regular basis, because then our body system gets a different message. So the other thing is to remember to keep reaching out and maintaining connections like you're doing tonight. And then we're going to talk about first about the physical level of self-care. So we start with movement, and we just talked about that before we started the online here. So the idea of exercise, we know, is scientifically proven to reduce anxiety and depression. Those are the two things as a mental health practitioner that I'm most concerned about. Physical health, obviously, we're concerned about the virus, but from a mental health perspective, anxiety and depression are the two potential side effects that could come from this that I am most concerned about. So a big part of me wanting to talk about self-care is to help us to maintain really good mental health. And not just avoid the physical issue or the concern about the virus, but also maintain that healthy mental health. And scientifically, it's already been proven that exercise is one form, one way to reduce anxiety and depression. And so think about all the ways that you can do that. I don't have access to the jars in my cupboard, but we were talking about, you know, find something to do at home, go for walks, regular walks, honoring your 6 feet apart, your social distance is fine. Be creative with your home exercise, like using the canned goods or something like that. There's always something in the house you can do that will provide, get out your yoga mat or find a comfortable place on the floor where you can stretch. Tap into the many online at-home workout classes available. There are tons of them, tons. On TV, online, there's yoga, Tai Chi, all different kinds of workouts. So movement we're starting with the idea of movement as our first point of physical self-care. The next one is fresh air. Since I can't see it, Laura, I'll just assume that you'll know that I'm going to the next topic, right? Okay. So
yeah, the next topic was nutrition.
Okay, fresh air should be this. Okay, nutrition. Nutrition, food, drinks, supplements. So the idea of reminding the importance of strengthening our immune system. Avoid processed foods, increase foods with vitamin C like citrus fruits, red bell peppers, broccoli, spinach, all the things I love. However, now we need to really make sure we wash them better than ever before. So don't neglect that piece of it. It's really important, all that produce that I live on, it's really important right now to make sure we're washing it really thoroughly. Additionally, keep very hydrated. So the idea of lemon water, which I'm drinking constantly, I'm sipping on all day long, antioxidants like ginger and green teas, stinging nettle, those are all great anti-inflammatory teas. So keep those in mind and sip on them throughout the day. So a quick disclaimer, I am a mental health professional, I am not a physician. So these are all made with recommendations on things that have worked for me, and although it's documented, these aren't prescribed, they're just recommendations. I do carry a wonderful line of high-grade supplements, and I'm educated through that line. And we've been encouraged to increase our supplements of vitamin C, zinc, vitamin D, and melatonin. So if you want any more information around that, I just recommend that you contact me directly. I'm happy to talk about what supplements might be good for you. Those are the ones that are common. So next, after nutrition, fresh air. Get your fresh air walking around outside, go on your deck. I mean, I'm so grateful I have the ability to do that. Even though it's been cold in Minnesota, not as cold for the New Yorkers, but cold in Minnesota, we've got different issues because we've got both groups on the call here. So we've got a cold in Minnesota, but we can still bundle up and go outside. Soak up that sun because it's vitamin D. Sit out on your deck or porch, connect to the sunshine, connect to nature. If you're in New York, like a couple of you are in the city, it's a little more challenging. You know, find your creative ways to social distance, creative ways, I know, walking your dog and all the things that you need to do to stay healthy, but be able to access being outside is all important. So, oh, and Wisconsin, excuse me, we got a Wisconsin person on here too. So wasn't trying to limit it to just Minnesota and New York. So all of the ways that we can connect with nature is really, really important during this time. So physical is everything related to your body: movement, fresh air, nutrition, and lastly, the one you might be over or under expressing is sleep. So when I say over or under, oversleeping is fine until you start to do it as a pattern, and you might want to check in to make sure you're not feeling depressed, because it can be a symptom of depression. But sleeping in because you don't have to get up to go to work isn't likely that. It's more of taking advantage. I'm noticing that a lot of people are realizing that they actually need more sleep than they're typically getting. So I encourage you to kind of test that out and get your 7 to 8 hours minimum sleep. Remember that it helps your immune system and it'll help manage your stress. So if insomnia is in there, that's also an indicator. And the reason melatonin has been known to be recommended, we're still, even though children are still susceptible to the virus, it's been one of the beliefs is that, and I say belief because we don't have enough science yet, but one of the thoughts is that kids have a lot more melatonin than older people do. So using melatonin can be great for a supplement for the virus, but it also has a side benefit of helping you sleep. So let's do a brief exercise to tune into our sense of grounded presence again, and just set all of that down for a moment. And allow yourself to get in touch with your physical body. So just take a couple breaths to bring your awareness there. Get back in touch with your physical body, just like we did in our introductory grounded meditation. And just take a couple more breaths to increase your connection to your physical body. And then intend to open to hear what your body system has to say to you while asking this question. So just listen in. Close your eyes if that will help. What does my physical body need or need more of during this time? And just take a couple breaths on that. Now listen. Listen to the many ways your body might communicate. What does my physical body need? Or what does it need more of during this time? Does it need more sleep, more movement, more fresh air, better nutrition, or something that's not even been mentioned? And use your notes now to jot down anything, any insights you might have gained. Just take a moment to do that. And then Laura has a question to ask the group.
I do. So as you're thinking to yourself there, what types of physical self-care are you doing that you find effective during these times? I know one I'm doing is that... I'm
going to take everyone off mute just to see if anyone would like to share anything.
Absolutely.
So does anyone have anything they'd like to share that is a physical self-care pattern, behavior, action that you find is effective for you during this time?
I can go. I'm finding when it's nice, because the last couple days have been kind of rainy and cold and damp, but when it's nice, the 3 days prior to that, I walked outside in the fresh air. So that was to me getting kind of a dual. You know, I get the fresh air and the walk, and that just, I love that. And luckily in Minnesota, we're moving into that time of the year. So that's really helpful, I think, for the self-care and the virus.
Wonderful. Anyone else? Thanks, Tammy.
I find it wonderful. I'm doing dance 6 days a week in practice online.
Awesome. There are so many things going on online. Everyone's at home being creative and wanting to share it.
Yes.
So really, if you haven't done that already, really check out some of the, whatever, you know, think of something you haven't done for a while that you might like to do. And I bet you can find the resource.
Okay. And so, I also have some recordings of Qigong course I took that I'd never really used to the full extent, and now I'm doing one of the sessions every day, or trying to at least probably 6 out of 7 days I've managed it so far.
So just like Tammy, you're finding you're getting a multi-approach, right? Because that's something that that's exercise and movement, and Qigong is energetic. So you're addressing a couple different areas of the body system. So that's awesome. So now I want to invite you to choose 3 things, or at least a couple things, and go to your self-care plan paper and just jot down a couple things that are inspiring from what you feel that you would be willing to commit to doing for your own physical well-being, especially during this next couple weeks. Because again, you can modify it, but we want to start it with a plan. Think of this as this is the beginning of your plan. Even if you're already doing some of it, maybe add one new one to your list.
Gina, I have a question, if I may. Do you have any suggestions? I was really touched when you said about all the you know, the fruits and things that you're continuing to eat, and you're like, wash them more and all that. When I did the exercise, I really, really liked the exercise when you had us do the meditation, say, what does my physical body need right now? The answer I got was, I'm really missing the fresh fruits and vegetables, because now I've gone shopping for 2 weeks. I live alone, so I've bought groceries for 2 weeks. And so I just went and redid it again. So for 2 weeks, all I had was dried processed food. I'm not used to that. My body's not used to that.
Me either.
And then when I went shopping again on Friday for the next 2 weeks, I bought that stuff again. And I feel like my body's just like going, I feel so like bloated because I'm not used to processed foods. So what I was surprised when you said that you're still getting fresh fruits and vegetables. I just wanted like a tip or a hint, or, you know, how best practice or something like that.
Sure. You know, the safest is to get something that's got a peeling so that you can physically wash it or peel it. That's the safest. And some things are already packaged that have been pre-washed, like different kinds of greens and things like that. And they're also frozen. So you can, those are all different ways to still stay safe and eat vegetables and continue the produce.
Thank you. That was the answer I was looking for. It seems so obvious, but frozen, because I wasn't concerned about the cleanliness. I was more concerned about it spoiling, because I'm only going shopping once every 2 weeks now.
Well, I'm gonna insert a little technique that I use because I live that way. I'm mostly vegetarian. I start at the beginning, right after shopping. The first couple days is green salads, all raw. I eat it all raw. When it start couple days in, then I'll use it for smoothies or stir fry. And then the next thing is at that same time, whatever's at about that point, whatever I know I'm not going to eat, I freeze. So then nothing is wasted. Okay.
That was very helpful. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Wonderful. Okay, let's talk about the mental body, the mental health. A little bit, we touched on that a little bit. So uncertainty and unknown creates stress. So again, the inner management, the self-management, now's the time to engage in activities that help you feel clear-headed. Structure helps. So staying aware of your thoughts and noticing what you can and cannot control. Our thought patterns are directly connected to how we feel and the actions we take. So that, I want to say that again. This is a big part of what I do in sessions and teaching, is the idea that when we manage our mindset, we are also affecting our emotions and feelings. Because it's almost always true that we start with the thought and the emotion follows. If you change the thought, you'll change your reaction. So it's really powerful, and a big part of the work I do has to do with mindset. So I encourage you to learn to be witness to your thoughts and watch what you think. And remember that what you're thinking has a huge impact on how you're feeling and how you actually go through life. So stay watchful, not to add energy to a thought that spins you out. So by that I mean, stay watchful of thoughts that do not serve you, and don't spin out by creating a negative loop. Do you all know what I'm referring to? That idea of a fearful thought or a doomsday thought or something like that, that isn't going to help you to feel better or to take care of yourself. So I'm not saying be unrealistic. What I am saying instead is don't feed it. Don't just let it move through you as a thought, instead of thinking of it as, oh, that might happen, that might be true. And that's what I mean by spinning out. It's like adding energy to it, expands it, and then it becomes our pattern of thought. When actually what we really want to do during these times is to notice those thoughts that we might consider negative and just observe them and let them move through us, because we're around that line of thinking. It's in the news, it's around fearful people, it's all over. So this is a practice we want to take into any time in our life, but it's especially important now. So let's talk about a couple ways to manage our mindset. So a slide on keep a journal. I know some of you have done that and do that. A journal has a couple purposes. It's not just a diary. It's an idea of if you've ever done something like the morning pages in that practice, the idea of kind of having a mental dump, meaning like one way of journaling is to be able to just release the thoughts out of your mind by expressing them through writing. So just let it go as you're writing it. Or write it down and notice that as you let it go, you start to get some of that mind clutter out of the way so that you can get closer to your true nature underneath that. Because that mind clutter, all that on the top layer, those fearful thoughts aren't really your true nature. And writing it down, think of it as I'm writing it down, I'm learning more about me, not about my fears, but about what's underneath that. And then also it's the idea of letting it go as you're doing that. Okay, next, talk to a friend. This is a time, I bet all of you are having some degree of experience with this. Even for those of us who live alone, this is a time where today I heard from someone who I haven't spoken to for 20 years. Yesterday I heard from someone who I only typically see on Facebook and social media, but she picked up the phone and called me. So it's like, and another example is some of my close girlfriends from my college girlfriends, we do a coffee. We do a Zoom group where we have coffee, and I'm sure it's going to end up as happy hour at some point. But the idea of getting the group together and still finding ways to connect beyond, or someone on this call sent me a letter in the mail, which I really appreciate. Thank you very much. So the idea of trying these, you know, when's the last time you got a letter in the mail? Come on, it was awesome. So this is a time to talk to friends, family members, a professional, maintain connection. It's really important. We don't want to use this, even though the word isolation comes to mind, this doesn't need to be a time of isolation. It might be a time of less physical contact, and yes, we're going to miss the hugs and things like that, but it doesn't need to be a time of isolation. Okay, so focus on a hobby or a project you've been wanting to do. I heard a couple of people already give that example, whether it's dancing or pulling out the Qigong or Tai Chi, or I'm looking at a project on my table in the other room that I'm excited to complete that has nothing to do with work, and it's just something that I've been wanting to do, but it always gets put to the side. So this is a time to kind of go in a little bit deeper on what is important, because I really do believe this is a time when we're being asked to slow down, obviously, but to slow down on a macro level, to slow down and really prioritize what we're doing with our life in this busy, right? So it's like, okay, what does it feel like? How does it feel to be, you know, that saying of how do you like the company you keep when you're alone? Just really use this time as an opportunity to do that exploration. Mental health can really be supported by working on an interest, a hobby, a project, learn a new instrument, play the guitar, do something like that. Come up with some ideas there. Okay, limit electronics. Put a limit, just like we do with their kids, where we say, you know, how much time on a device. Now, that doesn't mean don't do these kinds of things, but it does mean don't spend all day in front of your computer, especially the news. Some of us get a little more triggered than others when it comes to the news. And then what I recommend is after that happens, then just do some kind of clearing meditation or Reiki or grounding exercise so that you let it go. But think of this as a time, there's a couple of reasons. Take long breaks from the news and social media is for one reason, but there's another reason. It's scientifically known that we reduce our melatonin and our ability to sleep if we have too much electronic exposure. So that's the other side of it. So when you're tempted to do so much of these things online, that's great. But if you can also do them at a little distance or on the TV when you're exercising on the other side of the room, those are some of the ways to kind of safeguard that. And then additionally, because these are such challenging times, and because mental health, fear of the unknown is one of the greatest fears, I strongly encourage you to find fact-based sources to provide accurate, reliable information. Really want to emphasize that. The CDC, your state governor, Johns Hopkins University, and others like that. Now's the time for accurate information, because I've already witnessed and we've already publicly seen what can happen when there isn't clear communication of factual data. So find the right sources so that you can safeguard yourself from the depletion of energy that comes from spinning out into fear on something that isn't even the truth. Okay. So remember to focus on activities you enjoy. Will have mentally has a positive impact on your neurochemistry. So I encourage you to find activities that you enjoy, knowing it will help your mental health.
Jeannie, I've unmuted everybody to see if anyone wants to share other mental health related things that they've been able to kind of uncover during this time.
Or any comments on what I said, you're welcome to share.
News is my Achilles heel because I used to be in the news business. And I'm still an ambulance chaser because of that. So when anything is new, I'm allergic to it. So I'm trying very hard to choose my sources, but it's very hard.
I hear you, because we're inundated with information, aren't we? And you know, I've begun to have a practice of, instead of assuming something comes from a reliable source, I check it out. I'm like a journalist now, and I don't have any of that background that you have, Cass. But the idea of, you know, checking it out on more than one source before you assume it's accurate.
That's the first thing I taught my journalism students for 30 years was the statement that came out of the Chicago News Bureau. If your mother says she loves you, check it out.
There you go.
But that leads just to more news. So.
One thing that I've done is, and it's not necessarily a trigger, it's more, I don't know. Well, I'll just tell you. I noticed that certain people on social media, they're more interested in conflict. So they'll post something trying to garner some sort of conflict, and then they're just going back and forth in the comments. And I understand that when it happens once in a while, but there's certain people that every time they post, that's what they want to post. And I've learned for my mental health, is I've just learned, you know what, there's a button on Facebook that you can unfollow someone for 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't look at it. I'm not triggered, like I'm not angry at them or anything, but I figure for me, it gives more space in my news feed for the positive. You know, when I hear about people doing positive things like Laura doing with this, you know, fireside chats, there's more room in my news feed to see all these positive things, because there's a lot of people really doing a lot of things for free, like you said, free yoga, free whatever, dance, you know, that I'd rather see those than these argumentative posts.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
one of the things that you're learning that will help you feel better, to just, you know, put the 30-day pause on someone where you feel like you're just getting the conflict. That makes sense. Thanks.
That's good.
Anybody else?
Yeah, one thing, I'm not really a TV fan in the first place, but when I watch movies, it's usually like horror movies or action. But this week I've been watching comedy, because that totally lifts my spirit. So it's definitely, even I seen, like, I don't usually watch the cat videos either on Facebook, but there was this cat video yesterday that I was laughing so hard that I normally probably wouldn't even laugh that hard at it, but I could tell at the end, this whole weight was lifted, and I just felt so much better because I just had that huge laugh. So that's, yeah, comedy, definitely.
Awesome. And remember, the idea of this overarching theme is to notice the things that work for you, and they're going to be different for each of us. So part of your self-care plan is to look at what you benefit from, what's beneficial, what helps you feel better, what helps you in general, energetically and immune system based. All of that, anything that you do that feels positive to you is going to be helpful. Okay, so let's do a really brief exercise on the mindfulness of thought. So let's just take a moment to kind of come back to that kind of centered place, and just close your eyes for a moment. And I'd like you to allow your thoughts to move to the foreground, and just notice a thought. Just be a witness to a thought. Let the thought take center stage in your awareness. And the thought might be, you know, what are we talking about here? Or what went on earlier today? Just let a thought surface and come to the foreground. And begin to notice how the mind wants to follow that thought. It might want to expand the thought. what the content might be. But instead of doing that, practice letting it just be a thought. In other words, simply witness it as a thought. So as it comes up in your mind, just observe it. Notice the thought you're thinking without engaging in it. Just let it arise and linger briefly, or if it's an extended period, but then let it pass away. Let it dissolve. Let it just pass like a cloud in the sky. And if you find yourself being drawn into the current thinking, that returning to that thought, then you know you're no longer observing the thought, and shift your awareness instead to just being the witness to the thought you're thinking. Don't get lost inside of it. Just be aware of it. Be the observer of it, just like a cloud passing in the sky. So as we return to the presence of our group, add this practice to your self-care toolkit so you can choose to give attention to your thoughts that serve you and just witness the flow of thoughts that do not. Now take a moment and jot down on your self-care plan 2 or 3 ideas on things that you can commit to support your mind and intellect. It might be something you were inspired to do while we were talking, or it might be something on the list. Next, let's talk about the emotional health. As I mentioned, the mental health is so important. Noticing the thoughts we're thinking is so important because they have a direct correlation to our emotional health. So it is important to allow yourself to have a full range of emotions. But remember that having the emotions or feelings is one thing, acting on them is another. So we just experienced witnessing the thought, and I want you to consider that you can do the same with emotions. Instead of letting emotions or feelings drive you to action, we can actually learn how to pause and witness the feeling as if it's energy moving through us instead of something we need to act on. So we want to learn to work not to judge the feelings, but instead to consider them, to consider being a witness to them. If something persists, you'll know when it's time for action. Trust that. And over time, we develop a sense of intuition that guides us to make choices that are, by the way, do not have an emotional charge to them. They are, our intuition does not, that's how you know the difference between your intuition. The intuition doesn't have a trigger, doesn't have a charge to it. It will just be like feel like, do that. It'll just feel kind of neutral. And that's one of the ways to notice, do we pay attention to it? When we're working with emotion, we want to notice the charge. What does it push us or pull us? Does it cause us to expand or contract? We want to just notice what it does for us so that we can decide what to do with it. Most of the time, just letting it flow without taking action is going to be the higher action or higher process. But let's talk about, what will help our emotional self-care. So top on the list is staying connected, staying connected with family and friends. We talked about how important that is prior in terms of all the things that are available to us, and although we have to be a little more creative now on ways that we're staying connected. Next, asking for help if needed. So know yourself and know if you're someone who does that easily. And I'm going to bet that more than half of the people on this call are not great at it. Just a guess. So these are the times when you think about, what does ask for help look like? Well, it might be help with shopping. A friend, a family member, a neighbor. There might be something in your house that's broken that really does need to get fixed. What can you do? Maybe it's just calling up someone and saying, I need to talk. Can we set up a time to just chat? I just need connection. So encourage yourself to own that you need some support and be willing to seek it. Hug your pets. You can hug your pets. They're safe. I like hugging trees, so that's what I do. Growing up in the woods, I had more experience with trees than I did with pets, wild animals, but not. We had a dog, but still, it wasn't. It was more of a nature connection that fed me. So that's where I get my physical hugs with pets and trees. So think about, what is your version of that? It might be going for a walk in nature and really noticing the sunshine, or noticing trees to me are my go-to. So think about what yours might be. And if you have a pet, I'm sure that's very beneficial during these times. Remember, laughter. Someone just brought that up a moment ago. The whole idea of Sherry, I think that was you, right? The idea of watching a comedy, videos online. My favorite is the laughing babies. Oh my God, it just cracks me up. That's all of it. And so if you're a cat lover, a dog, there's just tons of really fun things that can really make you laugh. So this is two reasons. Laughter is really healthy because it's something you enjoy and it feels good, but it also helps strengthen the immune system and the energetic system. It raises your vibration because you're lighter. Think about the difference between focusing on the seriousness and of the world today versus how important it is to balance that with the lighter side of life. And add that. And then lastly, around emotional self-care, a reminder to let the love be stronger than the fear. That's one of my affirmations. Let the love be stronger than the fear. Let the love be stronger than the disconnect or isolation, because love is about acceptance. Love is about allowing. And to some degree, that's what we need to do. We need to be in a space of acceptance, taking good self-care, but also accepting what is. Laura, let's open it up to see or ask your question.
Sure, yeah. I've got everyone unmuted again just to share anything they're doing on the emotional health side.
as far as staying connected, my brother is in California. My sister lives up north. And on Friday, we had a virtual happy hour where we all got on Facebook Messenger and we were all on the screen. And it was, you know, we're used to being apart, but we decided, you know, let's do this. And it was actually something that I probably would like to do, you know, every couple of weeks because we are so far apart. So it was definitely nice to be connected with them.
Great. Yeah, let's use this time for with creativity to come up with things that we might want to continue doing,
Right.
like sleeping longer and connecting with friends and things like that. Anybody else?
We have a family text message group, and lately, since we're all inside, it's my generation, and then the children, and then the children of the children, and we seem to be sharing my mother's recipes for things.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah.
That's great. So take a moment to write down 2 or 3 things that you'd like to commit to support your emotional health in your self-care plan.
I've been doing those with friends also, the talking. But one thing that I do for my mental health is crocheting and Sudoku puzzles. And what came up just now is that I've also just started YouTube videos for meditation videos with music. That so they're just all nature scenery and real calming music, like 528 healing frequency. And it's so calming. It totally gets rid of all my anxiety. And I like that a lot. It helps me feel calm, and I can still do all my, like, house cleaning, all my other activities, but I feel calmer.
Great. Add that to your self-care list to do regularly. Sounds like a wonderful idea. Okay, while you're doing that, let's go on to the spiritual body, spiritual health. I'm a big advocate of setting the tone for the day. By that, I mean, begin your day in wholeness. Start out with whatever practice is beneficial to you as part of your self-care, but consciously start your day. So you can do that by considering starting your day with a spiritual or an energetic practice like prayer or meditation or Reiki or yoga. Or you can just, before you get out of bed, instead of reaching for your phone and looking for the news, take a moment to just take a couple relaxing breaths. The words I use, I call in my scattered energy from sleep time, and I fill myself up in wholeness, and I take that into my day instead of, you know, starting off on the wrong foot. And just take a moment to help you get in alignment, like even if it's the breath, or even if it's mini grounding meditation, something that helps you feel a sense of wholeness that you bring into the day, instead of starting off, feeling off from the beginning. Also, set the tone, do your personal spiritual practice, whatever that might be. I mentioned some of them, whatever that is for you, a way to connect. Remember that if we look at the energy centers of our body, our spiritual center is at the top of our head. So however you connect with your love vibration, with God, with spirit, imagine a sense of fullness, and most importantly, a connection. So take your personal spiritual practice and amplify that during this time to strengthen your energetic self. Think about, we talked about a healthy physical body. So this is a good time to bless or Reiki, whatever your practice is, your food and your supplements. When I was in Peru, one of the things that we were taught was to do that with the water. in other words, we already know scientifically that we can raise the vibration of the water, of the food, of the supplements, so that they resonate to what's most beneficial to us. So think of that as a conscious action. It doesn't matter how you do it. There's not one right way to do it. What matters is your intention. So if your intention is to bless your food or to raise the vibration or to get it to resonate to how it will support you, that intention is what you're bringing into this practice. How you do it is less important than the fact that you're doing it through your intention. Next, music. Music. We haven't really talked about music, but dance. Cass mentioned dance, but I really want to encourage music. Has the ability to support us in any level of vibration. What I mean by that is, think of it as if you want to get really grounded, do earth music, right? Do shamanic drumming music. If you want to connect more with lighter vibration, more esoteric music, I encourage you to vary it. To just listen to, well, what am I in the mood for today? Or I'm going to take a music break. I love that. In between, I've got music going on in the house all the time. And I have a bunch of music that I sing to, but I also enjoy chanting. So that's a spiritual practice, chanting mantras. That really is my go-to. So if you haven't tried that, I encourage you to give it a try. Any kind of music is beneficial though. And then close the day. Close the day means, in this 24/7 world that we've come to live in, we need to have endings. And by that, I mean like a bookends or parens, where we start the day and close the day. Close the day, end your day with closure, end your day by letting go of everything so that you can go into a more peaceful sleep. Be watchful to not have difficult thoughts or news right before you go to sleep, especially in bed. Have enough of a break before you go to sleep so that you could use something like a reflection journal. It might be a little bit different than a gratitude journal or different than the journal we spoke of before, but you decide what works for you to reflect on your day, to journal a little bit, or to have an evening letting go meditation, some way to consciously let go of the day so you can go into a peaceful sleep. And instead of, what we tend to do in this 24/7 world is we bring the day with us in the process, the triggers, the emotions into our night, and then have much less of a restful sleep. So think of how you can let go, because you're not going to do anything about it at nighttime anyway. So give yourself the opportunity to let go so that you can close the day and start fresh the next day. All right, so questions on or additional comments from anyone on spiritual tools? Everyone's got some fun ones. Anything that works for you that you'd like to share? Music, Tammy plays the harp. Yay.
I've actually been finding that I'm playing a lot, just kind of for myself, but also just, for the vibrations out into the world and helping create peace and calm. And it's been really, I feel like I've come home to my own just free flow, and it's been fun. I've really enjoyed that. So yeah.
Wonderful. Anyone else that have a practice they'd like to share? Or
well, I didn't know that I don't know which one it goes under, but since you talked about music here, I have a practice where I dance like 5 minutes a day, where I just put on one song and then I just like dance out. And I do it because I want to shift my vibration. I can't call it exercise because it's only 5 minutes, but it's just, it really makes me joyful However, I was really intrigued by your comment about chanting mantras. And I had forgotten that I had some CDs like that. So I want to start implementing that. So thank you for that. That was a wonderful
So
idea.
Elda, if you're on my business Facebook page, I post, Deva Pramal is a friend of mine, and she does daily chants that you can just go on and enjoy on Instagram or Facebook. So that's another option. Beautiful, beautiful chants, lovely. And there's many, many sources for that.
And if you need to see an expression of love, it's an incredible watching her and her partner Mitten. When you were talking about emotional health, I find they're doing a mantra every day at 3 o'clock right now, and I find that I can just go into that and it makes me weep. It just makes me cry, and it's almost like it's got because I'm touched so deeply by them, and it makes me. It's almost part of my therapy now. I need to have my diva cry for the day so I can like go back out into the world.
So we're referring to Deva Pramal and Miten. They're a couple who've been doing this for many, many years, and it shows. Yeah. So I think you'd enjoy it.
D-E-V-A, and the last name is Premal. And his is Miten. Just one name.
Thank you for sharing about the 3 o'clock mantras. I appreciate that. I'm going to check that out. Thank you.
Anything else? Anybody else? So we've explored the basic areas of body, mind, spirit, and emotional self-care. They don't necessarily need to be in categories, but sometimes it helps us to remember to cover all of the parts of our holism. So I hope you will bring this into your structured day and in your takeaways here, and build on it and modify it as needed. And I recommend beginning with 2 or 3 things that you know that you can commit to. I'm a recovering overachiever, so what I've learned from that experience is that it's better to do a couple things really well and then feel good about it rather than try to do 10 things and then drop it. So not that I've ever done that, but I just have learned a better pace. So I encourage you to integrate a couple things at a time and then expand, add them on as you go if you want to add more. So build on these basics until healthy self-care becomes your mindset and your healthy habit. Use this time at home in a productive way. I think if we really give ourselves permission to do that, we're going to come up with some really interesting and maybe even creative new expressions that we hadn't taken the time to explore. So remember to shift these patterns from external busyness to internal focus is a lot of what we're talking about tonight. And by establishing these behaviors of self-care and awareness, you create priority for your own self-care, which in turn also gives you an overflow to support those around you. Stay healthy and well.
Ginny, thank you so much for